Hello and welcome back to the Winning Agenda. My name's Jesse Muirman Marshall, and it's great to be here today with a full, complete Sorcery beta foil set. This is something that I've been really wanting to make a video about for a little while. Been working on since beta came out, and I'm super excited that I've finally finished it off. So I thought I'd share it with you all. Obviously, it's not something that I'm going to be posting on the official channel, so it's a great chance to get some content up on the Winning Agenda and share something really cool, hopefully with all of you that you enjoy. In terms of how I've set this out, we've got a range of different cards that are back facing. So we've got the full art side facing, starting off with these avatars. And then you'll see that on the pages that follow, I've actually got one side with the full art side showing, and then one side with the foil side showing. I'm also going to get my folder across here so that nothing is obscured by my bonce in the corner of the screen. There we go. So we'll start off with the avatars, and then we'll go through the rest of it. So you can see the 7 non-elemental avatars here. So of course we've got the Battle Mage, Death Speaker, and Elementalist, Enchantress, Pathfinder, Seer, and the Sorcerer. The elemental avatars we've got later on. But I thought I'd put these at the front. For the rest of the collection, I followed the collection tracker spreadsheet in terms of order. So it goes after these avatars. The rest of it goes in element order, minions first in alphabetical order, then non-minion cards in alphabetical order for each element. And the elements themselves are in alphabetical order. So that's the non-elemental avatars. Beautiful way to start the collection. And then, of course, heading across... skipped a page ahead. Heading across into air. So already on the first page of air cards here, there are just so many iconic pieces from a gameplay perspective, from an art perspective, all the things that make Sorcery great. I love how part of the reason I've chosen to do half of them in full art version and half of them in the foil version is that I love both treatments. I mean, maybe I should make 2 foil sets so that I can show off both. But you can see here on this side, like Dapple Vampire, Grandmaster Wizard, Apprentice Wizard, Grim Reaper, such different styles of art, Candlemas Monks. I mean, every one of these pieces of art is awesome. And seeing them in that full art version, you really do get often a sense of greater balance from the piece. Things like Dapple Vampire, when it's got the card box over this bottom section, although there's kind of not a lot going on in that bottom section from a focus perspective in the piece, having that space actually really balances out everything that's going on at the top. And it's the same for a lot of the other pieces as well. The balance of the overall composition of the artwork often looks really awesome on this full art side. But then, of course, the foil versions just look so cool as well. The foil stamped text boxes that are slightly raised, the way the foil stamps on the name of the card as well are slightly raised and really give that additional pop to the cards. And then, of course, also the foil treatments and the way each of these was done by hand in terms of cutting out the areas of the card that they wanted to have lower and higher opacity. So things like Highland Princess, you can't quite see in this light, but the way that the foil reflects off the Highland Princess gives an additional foiliness to the background and really helps to bring the figure into the foreground. So the way that I've laid out the collection is to try and give a little bit of a taste of both the full art and the foil side. I'm going to make the face cam a little bit smaller because really we're all here for the foils. So just get me right off into the corner there so you can see all the foils properly. All right, so heading over to the second page. Highland Princess, as I mentioned, of course, an iconic piece. I really like how in this section of the air card pool, the air minions, you really get that sense of how Eric managed the art direction of each of the elements to really bring out some of the vibe that he wanted to have. So you can see all of these air minions really on this page, with the exception of probably Men of Leng, who are just the weird odd ones out, have this kind of imposing ethereal essence to them, or this darkness. You know, things like Nightmare, obviously quite a dark piece of art in terms of the themes and the style and the sort of tentacles and the nightmare itself. And then Nimbus Jin likewise has quite a sort of dark and stormy vibe. And then you've got the darkness and the spirituality of things like the Phantom Shade down there and the Peregrine Apparition, which is sort of coming out of the clouds, as well as the, of course, the bats coming out of the moon there, or flying in the moonlight rather. So yeah, I really like how there's that cohesive artistic vision within each of the elements. And then from a tabletop perspective, when you're looking at things like foil plumed Pegasus down on the table, it just looks awesome. Recurring Spectre, Roaming Monster, some iconic pieces of artwork in terms of, bursting out of the card almost towards the player on the table, and the foil just helps them to pop even more. On the next page, we've got some really iconic pieces of gameplay in terms of Browse and Lightning Bolt and Grapple Shot, three of the most powerful air cards in terms of gameplay that you'll often see across the table, as well as, of course, Blink on this side. I think the most played ordinary spell at many of the early tournaments in terms of both number played, but also the number of decks that played at least one copy. Blink is an absolute powerhouse. So the full art foil version there of the Blink, the full art side showing, and then things like Ultimate Horror, Witherwing Hero, a couple of the other uniques as well. And Spectral Stalker, one of my personal favourites from the Battle Mage decks, getting in there early for some early aggression. On the next page, a few more uniques. I've got the Occult Ritual, or Occult Ritual, I think actually is the only unique there on this page. That's an awesome piece of art from Lindsay. Shout out to Lindsay, who came across for the Australia-New Zealand Championship recently. Some of the other really cool spells, and you can really see how in the air spell section of the card pool, there's also this cohesive kind of teleportation theme. There are bright light contrasted with dark shadows. A lot of really high contrast pieces here, which is really awesome as well. And the little bits that are hidden by the text boxes, things like Tony Sudlow's little signature there on the dog tag that's coming out of the grave as well, is a very cool little Easter egg that's hidden beneath the text box on the ordinary version of the card. And on the foil side here, another one of my personal favourites, Whirling Blades, from a gameplay perspective, and Summoning Sphere, which is an iconic piece of art that I think drew a lot of people to the game and stuck in a lot of people's minds as emblematic of early Sorcery. So I think that's going to go down in history as an iconic card as well as from a gameplay perspective, of course, enabling some Nimbus Djinn shenanigans, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of future shenanigans as well. Again, some really, really awesome pieces of art here. Amazon Warriors, which I've got the print of behind me. Crown Prince, which stands out thanks to its very unusual color palette with that very strong, vibrant yellow, and then the black of the horse and the brown of the Crown Prince's outfit. Atlas Wanderers up the top here in the full art version. Again, another piece that has some incredibly balanced composition and just some additional depth and perspective to it, I think, when you see the full art version. And then some of the really cool foils there, getting a bit of a sense of how much these foils really pop under the right lighting there on the Dalcian Phalanx in the top right-hand corner. And then just trying to get a bit of different lighting on some of the foils there. The Grey Wolves, King of the Realm down the bottom. I have got some of the uniques in an additional sleeve, which is why perhaps that King of the Realm doesn't quite pop as much, because it's effectively, I think, triple sleeve down there once you include the folder itself. Oh, skipped over a page. Crater Eyes, Divine Healing, Earthquake, some other very strong ones there. But yeah, heading back a page, of course, Pudge Butcher with the Pudge's Victim down the bottom. Queen of Midland, a beautiful piece of Severin Pignot artwork there. And then Slumbering Giantess, Shield Maidens, Royal Bodyguard, a whole lot of other cards. I mean, it's amazing when you go through this and I just think about how many of these cards I've actually played in decks. The percentage is incredibly high. It's such a well-designed set. So many different avenues and places to explore. Stonegaze Gorgons, of course, featuring in the winning deck from the Australian-New Zealand Championship. Not something that many people would have bet money on before the championship started, I don't think, that one would be a feature in the first place deck. Earthquake, a powerhouse in the format. Crater Eyes, another one that sees heaps and heaps of play. Common Sense, Divine Healing, Dispel, Bury. Cave-In was also in that winning Earth deck. Rotanus Titan sees heaps of play. So many different cards that I can remember personally having iconic and enjoyable moments with, let alone all the different players out there enjoying them in different ways around the world. It's really cool to think about. And again, just going through this, gigantism, you really get that sense of perspective from seeing a little bit more of the house in the foreground as well. Some beautiful pieces of artwork here too. Of course, Ascalon Phoenix, another Melissa Benson piece that stands out. And as we enter into the fire section of the card pool, you do get again, some more of those high contrast pieces, the fire, but also just the weirdness of things like Grosser Poltergeist and then Death Dealer, two Brian Smith pieces that definitely bring some of the darker side of fire. And then try and get a bit of light happening on some of these foils again down here. Yeah, so you can see like that Hillock Basilisk, that Infernal Legion, the way that that pops in foil, Lava Salamander, and then the Petrosian Cavalry as well, down in the corner. It's another one of my favorites. I'm just trying to get the light just right on that so that we get a bit of that foil pop. Oh, where are we? Almost. There we go. Yeah, letting you just really enjoy Outback Strider. And you can see again on that Outback Strider there an example of how that foil masking, you know, really bringing the figure into the foreground and allowing the foil mask to bring some additional opacity so that the background really picks up the foil sheet with a lot more vibrancy and you get that really cool 3D effect. These really are beautiful foils. You know, we've seen lots of different trading card games do different foils with different techniques at this point, and I love the way Sorcery foils pop with the framing of those additional silver stamps on sections of the card as well, just to give it that extra bit of panache. Panorama Manticore as well there. You can see the wings with that additional opacity. And then the more transparent section on the actual Manticore's mane giving you the extra shine. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So the fire card's definitely bringing some very cool additional contrast, especially on the foil side. Another one there, the iconic Vile Imp. The new artwork from Jeff Menges. Doesn't that look awesome? That is, I think, probably, aside from being one of the new pieces of artwork in the set, it's probably one of the best foils in terms of how it pops. The amount of sort of bright colors in the background that just get absolutely lit up. There you go. That gives you a good sense of it. And then this little demon in the foreground with the extra opacity, staying a bit darker. It's very, very cool. Backstab, one of the cards that people have speculated is a little bit harder to find. People have had some trouble getting that in foil version. So I was definitely pleased to have that one in the collection. Wayfaring Pilgrim, another card that a lot of people have tried to make work in different shells, whether it's Magellan Globe or just utilizing Pathfinder. Wayfaring Pilgrim, another powerful card. Seasoned Sellsword, a beautiful piece of Lindsay Crummet artwork, of which we were lucky enough to pick up this beautiful artist proof from Lindsay at the Australia-New Zealand Championship, which we're going to hopefully use as a prize in a future Plenty of Games Championship event. So for those of you in Melbourne, in Australia, or who might be around Melbourne later this year, keep an eye out for the details of how you might be able to get your hands on this and some other awesome prizes later in the year with future championships. But in the meantime, I get to enjoy that beautiful Lindsay Crummet artist proof, which I'm not too upset about. Next page. This one, every time I flip through the folder and I get to this page and I see this collection of full art spells, I just think, yeah, that is Sorcery. You know, that Heat Ray artwork from Jeff Easley, just absolutely incredible pieces. Very, very awesome. Iconic fantasy fire artwork. It's like exactly what you'd think of if someone said, draw me some fire spells in a fantasy setting. And then over here in the foil section as well, some more that just absolutely pop. Trying to get Minor Explosion to pop for us there. Oh, that's just a little bit too much light. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to get exactly the right light on it for the camera to get the foil to pop, but I think you get the idea. Poison Nova's giving us a nice little show down there. So there we are. That's that page. One of my favorites in the collection. And then transitioning from fire into water. Finishing off with a bang in terms of some fire artwork up here. That Warp Spasm, the additional pink color at the bottom of the Warp Spasm card really changes the full art side, the complexion of how it looks. It's very, very awesome. And then some of these water cards, which really do in foil, like the blue on some of the foils in water is just incredible. The depth of color that comes out from the blues doesn't happen so much in Delivering and Kraken because it's a little bit darker, but things like this Coral Reef Kelpie with its really deep blues, can't quite get the light right on the shine there, but yeah, they really do look incredible. Captain Baldassar, of course, one of my pet favorite cards from a gameplay perspective. Nice to see him in the collection. And then next up, we've got another batch of really iconic water cards from a gameplay perspective. I think, again, what I really like about having half of the collection laid out with the full art side and half with the foil side is you get to, as I said, enjoy some of the incredible foil pops like this Ruler of Thule that in foil with that light sky blue background just looks absolutely incredible. But you also get to really enjoy the way that the cohesiveness again of the different elemental card pools from an art perspective just really shines through. Like this giant shark, the Great Old One, the Lord of Unland, they all just have this sense of foreboding, you know, the darkness that's lurking beneath the water. Even the Fey Changeling kind of has that evocative sense from an art perspective. And then you also get the bright colors and the sort of bright natural beauty of things like the Mother Nature, the Gar Sirens, even the weirdness of the Muck Lampreys there. And then from a gameplay perspective on this page, Pirate Ship, one of my favourite cards to try and get the most out of, a 4-cost 5-power minion with a drawback, but, you know, it's an ordinary, so you get to have 4 of them in your deck, which is pretty cool. And then Ruler of Thule, as I said, aside from being an incredibly good-looking foil and card in general, is also a powerhouse from a gameplay perspective that's helped me get back into some games that I had no business still being in and actually winning sometimes. Bunch of other very cool water cards. Drown, of course, a very, very powerful piece of water removal. Selfsame Simulacrum, an Elvira Shakarova special that calls back to a very iconic piece of Quinton Hoover artwork from early MTG days, and another very evocative Melissa Benson piece there in the Zero One Hydra. Shout out to Elvira Shakarova as well, on Patreon, doing an incredible job of sharing her art journey with some of us in the community. So head over and support her on Patreon if you can. Then we've got Atlantean Fate, one of undoubtedly the most powerful cards in Sorcery TCG. Mariner's Curse, a very cool looking foil again there, that foil masking, giving you the ship in the foreground and then the sea, ocean, underwater scene in the background, really shining and shimmering. And Riptide, one of my favourite cards again from a gameplay perspective, forcing your opponent to do things they don't want to do, being a bit tricksy with the water. And then Plague of Frogs, another one of my favourite combos in the game. Shout out to Stephen Woolley, a fellow lover of the Plague of Frogs manuscript combo. And then we move across, and you'll see here on this page, a little bit of a surprise from a beta foil collection perspective. There is, of course, no Eric's Curiosa foil or non-foil version in the official beta set, but this is the Eric's Curiosa Curio version, which you can open in beta. It was not included as a regular card in beta. It was the only card from Alpha that's not in beta. But since I had this laid out in the same order as my Alpha non-foil set, I originally had a blank space there, and then I was lucky enough to open that as a Curio, and I thought, you know what? That's going in my foil set as a placeholder for Eric's Curiosa. Because I think a Curio version is equivalent to a foil, surely. Then we've got 2 of the cores, the iconic Melissa Benson cores here, and then the Angel's Egg as well from Brian Smith, looking imposing right in between. And as we move into the relic/artifact section, there's an incredibly high density of high-powered cards. You know, you've got your cores, of course, the Onyx core. There's all the mixers on this page, all 4 mixers. Got the Orb of Baal Bereth, which is not only an extremely strong card from a gameplay perspective, but a very cool looking foil with that little greeny yellowy border around the orb. Again, the way that foil masking really makes the orb pop. And then on the full art side, of course, the iconic Kythera mechanism and Flaming Sword, one of my personal favourites from a gameplay perspective. The Philosopher's Stone, the jewel in the crown of any Sorcery Alpha or Beta collection, be it foil or non-foil. Full art version, of course, incredibly beautiful. Lots of additional detail down the bottom of the card. Just a really, really gorgeous card in general. One that I'm very, very proud and happy to have in the collection. Ruby Core, the last of the Melissa Benson cores. And then we move over into the sites. So some of the sites are, I think, from an art perspective, one of the huge wins in Sorcery. You know, building up your board with these incredibly gorgeous pieces of artwork in this landscape format. It is one of the most evocative and enjoyable things about playing a game of Sorcery, is actually turning these beautiful cards into the landscape and the board on which you play the game. So I very much enjoy doing that every time I play Sorcery. It makes it an incredibly fun experience. Lots of wonderful uniques there. Some more beautiful, gorgeous uniques, Pristine Paradise, Color Out of Space. And then the dual sites here as well. On this page, the Aqueduct, Oasis, Lighthouse, Ruins, Step, and then Windmill, which is the only one on the foil side there. Dome of Osiris, that gorgeous Vincent Pompetti art with the dome itself, the building, really very much brought into the foreground by the foil mask, and that background really popping with that foil colouring. Really gorgeous. Yeah, foil sites are very much a treat as well to have on the battlefield. And then you might be wondering why this root spider's here at the end. That's because when I laid out my alpha non-foil collection, I actually forgot that card. And so when I did the beta foil collection, I actually laid it out in exactly the same order. And I thought, you know what, I'm not correcting that little mistake. That's going to be the little idiosyncrasy of my personal collection, is going to be that my alpha, non-foil, and my beta foil collection both have the little root spider hanging out the back. Roots of Yggdrasil, an iconic foil. We've of course got the 4 foil elemental avatars here, which are exclusive to beta, so they are different to the alpha elemental avatars. And then the last card that I got that actually finished this collection was Primordial Spring, funnily enough. Had everything else and I just couldn't get my hands on a Primordial Spring, so I was very pleased when that finally happened. The one before that was Smokestacks of Nyack, so that was hard to find. So I hope you enjoyed that little trip through my beta foil collection. It's something that I'm extremely happy to have, extremely proud of, and extremely grateful to be able to share with you all today. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you soon in the contested realm. Take care.